Michael hit the box office and shattered the hopes and dreams of so many other movies. Today we're taking a deep dive into all of the movies that were crushed by Michael and even looking at the plans and their hopes and what they were supposed to be. But something as strong as Michael won't let anything else succeed at the same time. Thank you guys for subscribing to my channel. Typically I have a coffee, but I finished my iced coffee already, so we're going dry for this video. Let me know what you're drinking. Let's dive in.
A movie that spent 5 years trying to get made opened the same weekend as the Michael Jackson biopic. It made $475,000. That is not a box office number. That is a dinner reservation. And that was just one of the films Michael completely wiped out. By the time that opening weekend was over, studios were doing the math, and none of it looked good for them. You already know what this video is about. You clicked because you want to see exactly how bad the damage was. And the honest answer, it was bad. Like, historically bad. The Michael Jackson biopic, simply called Michael, did not just win its opening weekend, it erased competition.
Now, when you think about it, Michael Jackson is one of the most popular artists, or probably the most popular artist of all time, at least here in America, and potentially even worldwide. If there is a documentary, docu-series, movie, or anything about Michael Jackson hitting the theaters, if you are planning on releasing your movie at the same time, I think that is an awful idea. Just knowing the amount of popularity, even if the movie Michael was a bad movie, it's going to crush the box office.
It buried films that had been running for weeks. In some cases, it killed movies that studios had been building for years, all in a single weekend. In this video, you will go through every film that got crushed, hear what the directors and studio heads actually said after the damage was done, and find out the one number that still has Hollywood talking. So let's get into it. Before you can understand how bad the damage was, you need to understand what Michael actually did at the box office. Heading into opening weekend, the people who made this film, producer Graham King and Lionsgate, were hoping for around $70 million domestically. That would have been a solid number, a respectable number. They got $97 million. That is the biggest opening weekend of any biopic in history.
So already, this film is making history, leading the box office financial charts. Good thing for Michael, bad for everyone else. And by the way, let me know in the comments, have you actually gone to see this?
It passed Oppenheimer. It beat Straight Outta Compton's long-standing domestic record of $60.2 million by more than 50%.
Wow.
It nearly doubled Bohemian Rhapsody's $51.1 million opening. And here's the part that makes this even more wild. Critics hated it. The film sat at a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes. The BBC gave it 1 star. Reviewers called it sanitized and shallow.
Did I not say that even if it were a bad film, that it would still crush the box office? Yes, I did. On top of that, though, we can't just take what critics say as gospel. You know, critics, they have a different mind for us average Joes that are watching these movies, or biopics.
But the audience, 96% verified hot score on Rotten Tomatoes.
There you go right there. You have tomato meter for the reviewers, for the professionals, giving it a 38%, and us, the normal people, 97. So clearly there is a disconnect.
An A- on CinemaScore exit polls, a 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb. The critics tried to stop it. The audience showed up anyway. $217 million globally in one weekend. That is the setup. Now let's talk about the victims. Victim number 1, The Mummy, April 17th, 2026. Okay, this one actually stings a little bit, because this was not some random studio dumping a low-budget film and hoping for the best. This was Jason Blum from Blumhouse, the guy behind Get Out, The Purge, Megan, and James Wan from Atomic Monster, the guy behind The Conjuring, Aquaman, Insidious.
Wow.
2 of the most reliable names in genre filmmaking, together on the same project. And the film they made together, it opened to $13.5 million the week before Michael arrived. Already shaky, already below expectations. But then Michael opened the following weekend, and The Mummy fell 58.6%, dropping to just $5.6 million.
Now, okay, we're still talking about millions of dollars, and you might be saying, what, they made $15 million in their first weekend and $5.6 million in their second? That's a ton of money. But when you're talking about box office and the movies and how much money is required to create these movies, these are actually pretty small numbers. And from the roster of producers here, it's numbers that you would not expect.
Its 10-day total sat at $23.4 million. The budget was $22 million.
Wow.
The estimated break-even was around $55 million. It is trending nowhere near that. But here's what makes this even more painful. James Wan had deliberately titled this film Lee Cronin's The Mummy. Not just The Mummy, Lee Cronin's The Mummy. The whole point was to tell the audience, this is not the 1999 Brendan Fraser film.
Right.
This is something new, something distinct, something with a real filmmaker's name on it. They put their branding and their reputation on this thing. And Michael made the whole effort disappear in a weekend.
I'll be honest. The Mummy actually looks like something I'd enjoy seeing. So maybe this video and creating it will inspire me to go give a little bit more support to The Mummy.
Victim number 2, A 24's Mother Mary, April 24th, 2026. Now let's talk about A 24. Because A 24 getting a box office reality check is something you do not see very often. Mother Mary is a psychological drama thriller directed by David Lowery, the guy behind A Ghost Story and The Green Knight, and starring Anne Hathaway. A 24, David Lowery, Anne Hathaway. On paper, that sounds like an award-season juggernaut. In reality, it grossed $2.2 million total against a $20 million budget. On its opening weekend, it landed in 9th place with just $1.1 million from 1,103 theaters.
Wow.
That is about $96 million less than what Michael made that same weekend. $96 million. Let that comparison sit for a second.
You are standing under the lights.
Now, this one doesn't intrigue me. It's not a movie I would have gone and seen myself, but the difference in the amount that Michael made versus this one is astounding.
But here's the part that nobody really talks about. Mother Mary hit theaters 1 week before The Devil Wears Prada 2, the sequel that reunites Anne Hathaway with Meryl Streep, Stanley Tucci, and Emily Blunt. So Anne Hathaway had 2 films releasing almost at the same time. One was an A24 art house thriller that cratered against Michael. The other was a legacy sequel that was about to kick off the entire summer box office. The timing could not have been more awkward, and Michael made it 10 times worse.
Yeah.
The critics tried to kill it and lost. Okay, this is one of the most interesting parts of the whole Michael story, because what happened between the critics and the audience is not something you see often. Critics went after this film hard. The BBC gave it 1 star and described it as a bland and barely competent daytime TV movie. Across the board, the main criticism was that the story felt sanitized, too focused on protecting Michael Jackson's image rather than actually telling his story.
I mean, when you think about it, though, when you're putting a movie together, you have your vision on what you want that to look like, whether that be a sanitized version or a completely truth-type version. That's up to the producer.
The overall critic score on Rotten Tomatoes landed at 40%, and the audience did not care at all. 96% verified hot audience score, A- on Cinema Score, 7.7 on IMDb. The people who actually went to the theater and bought a ticket gave this film their stamp of approval, loudly.
Anyone who thought the Michael Jackson film was gonna fail must be crying right now, because the Michael Jackson movie is now tracking to be the most successful musical biopic of all time. Michael has earned $40 million in its domestic opening day, biggest opening day of all time for a biopic, and the biggest box office opening day of 2026. Shimon!
Why do film critics hate the new Michael Jackson movie, and why are general audiences loving it? The movie just came out this past weekend. People have been making their way to theaters, seeing the movie, and for the most part, they have been coming out of the theater happy with the movie. But before that, of course, there was press screenings, media screenings, and film critics were giving this a really low grade. Now, why is that? The movie is a broad overview of Michael Jackson's life, especially at the peak of his career. It starts around the Jackson 5 era, and it ends right at the Bad Tour. After the bad tour is when a lot of the allegations and controversies surrounding Michael Jackson started, and it doesn't touch on that at all. And I think the film critics were looking for a deep dive into the psyche of Michael Jackson, answering questions like, why was he the way he was? Why did he have these odd behaviors? What was going on in his head around these controversies? And the movie doesn't touch on that at all. The movie really serves to highlight the legacy of Michael Jackson and the obstacles he had to overcome to become the biggest artist in the world. Now, what the audiences are having a really fun time with is the performances, and rightfully so.
So yeah, speaking on that, I would want to see the deeper story. I would want to learn more about the upbringing of Michael Jackson from child to adult, and some of the scandal that went on inside of his life as well. What was actually well-deserved and what was completely fabricated. But as mentioned, it seems like it's just a celebration of all of his successes. So me, as a viewer, I'd want a little bit of that dirt. And it looks like that film didn't give it. But also, it looks like the people watching didn't care.
So not only did movies get crushed, critics got proven wrong by nearly $100 million. Victim number 3, Desert Warrior, April 24th to 25th, 2026. And now we get to the one that is almost hard to watch.
Wow.
Desert Warrior, starring Anthony Mackie. A film that had been in production since 2021. 5 years of filming, development, and getting it to theaters. Distributed by Vertical Entertainment. It opened the same weekend as Michael Jackson. It made $475,000 from 1,010 theaters.
Oh my God.
That is not a box office number. That is a dinner reservation for a medium-sized office. A movie that spent half a decade trying to get made, opened on the same weekend as one of the biggest biopics in Hollywood history, and got completely erased.
And that was a mistake by the company releasing this video. How do you release something that you've been working on for 5 years on the same weekend as the biggest pop star of all time's biopic coming out? It seems like they weren't even in touch with reality.
Hello to the biggest box office flop in the history of cinema. Desert Warrior just came out in theaters. $150 million budget, and it only grossed a couple $100,000. The stars, Anthony Mackie.
Wow.
It was a legend.
Other victims. Films Michael passed in their entire run in one weekend.
Now, I wonder here, the previous one we were just talking about with Mackie, was it a good film? Or was it actual trash? Because the production value inside of that looks actually very nice. I wonder if just being the release date alone is what killed that movie. Now, I'm curious about what films lost to Michael's first weekend.
Now this is where it starts to get almost comedic. Michael did not just destroy the films that were in theaters at the same time. It went back and lapped films that had been running for weeks, sometimes months, and passed their entire career earnings in a single opening weekend.
Wow.
Take Scream 7, franchise best entry. It opened to $64 million domestic and ran for months. Its complete global lifetime total sat at $213.5 million. Michael passed that number in one weekend. Then there is GOAT, $190.5 million lifetime. Gone. Sam Raimi's Send Help, $94 million lifetime, passed. A24's The Drama, $99.9 million lifetime, erased. Scream 7 had actually celebrated a franchise-best worldwide opening of $97.2 million. Michael matched that number on its domestic opening alone.
I mean, when we're looking at the numbers that these movies and these films are making, whether they're good films or not, it seems like if you could produce a film for under $20 million, you could almost guarantee yourself profit.
Then kept going globally. And if you were wondering whether theaters were still packed at this point, yes, they were still selling out. So what did the competition actually say? At some point during all of this, the people actually inside the industry had to respond. And what they said is worth hearing, because these are not fan reactions. These are the people who run the business. Michael O'Leary, the head of Cinema United, which is the exhibition industry's main trade organization, came out and said that Michael proved audiences will show up for compelling stories on the big screen. He specifically pointed to Michael's momentum alongside other recent hits like Project Hail Mary and the Super Mario Galaxy movie as proof that theatrical cinema is still alive. Lionsgate chair Adam Fogelson kept it even simpler. He said, "If you give audiences what they want, they will come." That's the whole quote. He did not need anything else. And then there was director Antoine Fuqua. He had already been through chaos with this film. Reshoots, delays, the whole thing. But in an April 26 Deadline interview, he compared the experience to one of the most genuinely bizarre moments in his career. He said he was literally handing in the director's cut of Emancipation, his Will Smith film, the exact day Will Smith walked up on stage and slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars. He said he was floored. And he said this whole Michael situation felt similar. He survived both. And his film just took down the entire spring box office.
So something we could learn right here. When an icon has a film coming out in theaters, don't put your movie out on the same weekend or even in the same month. Easy lesson to be learned. Let me know in the comments below if you did see the Michael film and what your thoughts were on it, because I'm genuinely curious. And to dive deeper into what we speak of on this channel, you're going to want to check out this video. I'll see you guys over there.